walk into a church today, we have got to connect it. This church and the church system was not built for the foundation of African people's spiritual liberation. It was built, as my brother said, this is where the auctions took place at. This is where the process of where the conqueror takes away the deity and the traditions of Africa and calls that which is sacred to Africa heathen and pagan, when it's just as sacred as anything Europe had to offer, and more sacred, because the original spiritual concept happened here. This is why the white Christ that Michelangelo painted from black to white has to be scattered throughout Ghana, has to be scattered throughout the African communities of America, because now the enemy becomes the deity. Why is it that Bartholomew de las Casas authorized Michelangelo to paint Jesus from black to white? What time period was it? It was 1505, and what was happening in 1505? The slave trade was taking place. How can you enslave African people with a black Christ on the scene? So they knew that the spirit of African people had to be enslaved, and that's why Bartholomew de las Casas, who authorized the taking of our brothers and sisters from the African continent, and it was, Pope Julius II, who commissioned Michelangelo to paint Jesus from black to white. Because they knew that they could not have the final stage of enslavement of the person's being, where their God concept cannot reflect the image of themselves. This is where the enemy becomes the deity. And that's why in all the villages that you walk into, you see the white picture of the Jesus to plant in the subconscious mind of our brothers and sisters here is that the deity is the white man. And all we have to do is go back to history. All we have to do is go back to see why Pope Julius II commissioned Michelangelo to do that. All we have to do is go back to see why Bartholomew de las Casas, who authorized our brothers and sisters to be taken from Africa. And then we're going to come into a place right here in the capital, as they say, it's a church for the spiritual salvation of people, where they auction off our brothers and sisters. And I am not supposed to have a connection with that. I am not supposed to talk about the historical connections with that. I am supposed to be numb with that. I am supposed to walk through here like white tourists and look and smile and say that is nice, with no spiritual connection, and then go back to America and see why the hell is in America and why we're killing each other and why white folks are perpetrating death and genocide on us? Because the history is still going on. The final imperialist stage is the New World Order. They want the whole planet now. At one time, they wanted Africa. They wanted the heartbeat of Africa, and that's our brothers and sisters. Then they wanted the natural resources of Africa. So that's when the Berlin Conference, when they divided up Africa, these borders weren't here. As the brother told us yesterday. So now today is they want the whole pie. And once we connect, no one can hurt us if we are conscious of what happened and who we are. Nobody can hurt us. But we can only be hurt by being naive that our enemy is now okay. And he's not okay. When someone will tell me I can't have my deity in my own image, so we come back here to connect to understand that the Antichrist is Western Europe. The Antichrist is America. Because the Christ concept means to caressing of a person's spirit for their son and bonum, their supreme good that we talked about in Egypt to rise up. If someone is suppressing that, that is an Antichrist. No salvation came here to Africa for the rising up of our spirit. To bring the Christ, they brought the Antichrist image. They brought the Antichrist image around the world. This is what we have got to connect with. We have got to destroy the image of the enemy who he has instilled in us as the deity. And that's why so blatantly throughout Ghana you see these images of white Jesus everywhere. And then tell the priests for thousands of years who practiced traditional African concepts with a spiritual connection. We pay homage to the air because you need air to breathe. If you have no air, how will you live? So the priests pay homage to the air. If I cover up your nose and your lips, how long will you live? And then they're going to come and say that we were animals? If I take and pollute the earth, And now today, the very people who call us animists because we gave praise to the hierarchy of elemental forces, the air, the water, those sacred things which were the hierarchy of the spirit of the Creator, is now polluted. Had he paid homage to the air, had he paid homage to the water, had he paid homage to the earth, then we would not have the pollution that we have today because he did not pay homage to that. And then we are called animists, pagans and heathens. The pagan and the heathen is the one who have stripped the spiritual concept of our ancestors and make us look at our culture and our traditions as something wrong with it. I don't want to deal with that African traditional thing, because that's how the conqueror comes in. That which is sacred to you, they must destroy it. And once it's destroyed, then they must teach you to laugh at it. So we were taught to laugh at Africa. Through the Tarzan syndrome, through the church. Oh, free my evil black heart, oh Lord. Wash my heart whiter than snow. Show me the great white way. That was the spiritual murder in the church in America. So that which was sacred, then they desecrated it after the people laughed at it. And the people wanted nothing but European culture. And through taking of the white folks' culture and all that was theirs, then we deified it. And through the deification of the white culture, the white man becomes God. And that's why the image is not there accidentally, because the enemy has become the deity. So we come back here, brothers and sisters, not only to historically to connect, but to spiritually to connect. And that's the only way we're going to find our way. Because each and every one of us will leave here one day. What will we leave? Will we leave Elmina as just a place to come for a nice tour? Or will we come back here to Elmina to see the death that came and the pain and the suffering and death that took place here, that we have got to connect to, because that's our life. This is what we've got to connect to. The ancestors are calling us. We are the ones who self-hate and denial of self, who shut to deaf ears to the ancestral call. It's like a child. You tell a child something as a child's growing up, and a child wants to do its own thing because it refuses to listen to the mother and the father, the baba and the mama. So the child runs up into all kinds of hard knocks in life. We are the children in relationship to the spiritual realm, because we are not there, like a child who's not an adult. So we are children in relationship to the ancestors who are in the spiritual realm, who are not listening, because like a child who lets another child detour them away from their parents. So our enemy, who has now made themselves the deity, and we have only listened to them and not our ancestors, we're catching hell. And that's why we're catching hell. Because we only listen to the enemy who put us in this, and not the ancestral call. And we lost it, because we didn't hear the ancestral call. We closed deaf ears. I don't want to be an African. You want to talk about that black stuff? That's what we hear. You going to Africa? Why are you going to Africa? You must be crazy to be going to Africa. Why don't you go to France? You should be going to England. Trained to go to the land of our slave masters, because the enemy has become the deity. But we have broken beyond the boundaries. But we're breaking beyond many boundaries, my brother. We must re-educate our Africans in diaspora, all over South America, North America, of Africans all over the world, must come together. We are the majority on this planet. We are not a minority, we're a majority. And when that majority comes together, then the salvation of African people that Kwame Nkrumah spoke of, the uniting of Africa, we find our way. Hotel.